But first, these Paris Olympics, they're a warning. Global warming believers are bullies who will make your life harder, hungrier, and sweatier. But these games also give us hope that people power can defeat them. Certainly, angry athletes can. The organisers of these Paris Games are global warming zealots who decided from the start that these would be the Green Games. These organisers in their chauffeured limos were going to force the athletes to join their global warming crusade and cut their emissions. For a start, there would be no air conditioners in the athletes' village, said the Paris mayor, who also heads the Olympics infrastructure organisation.
Je pense qu'il faut faire confiance à la science sur deux choses. D'abord sur ce que les scientifiques sont en train de nous expliquer du fait que nous sommes au bord du précipice quant à la bascule, l'irréversibilité sur le changement climatique et que chacun doit en prendre conscience, y compris les athlètes.
Now, these athletes had to just suffer for the planet. This same mayor said, and I quote, "I have a lot of respect for the comfort of athletes, but I think a lot more about the survival of humanity. We'll all die if these athletes are allowed to turn on the aircon." And that's when the temperature today and tomorrow in Paris is expected to be in the high 30s, with humidity making that even worse. And that's not all. Supplies of meat and eggs were also cut. The athletes had to go hungry, or at least stop eating so much animal produce, because cows, are bad for the planet. All those emissions. And again, the bullying. I mean, what the athletes actually want to eat themselves, that didn't count. At the London Olympics, athletes actually ate 20% of their meals at McDonald's. But in Paris, these games, McDonald's has been banned. Especially chicken nuggets, they're banned, and red meat has been limited as well. Instead, the organisers said 60% of the athletes' food had to be vegan. The president of the Paris Olympics said, "It's our responsibility to educate the people who will be engaged in Paris 2024. It's a collective duty now to change our habits and definitely to reduce our carbon footprint." And this fool appointed himself as the teacher to educate everyone else. So it didn't matter if the athletes didn't approve of this crusade, didn't want to join this crusade, didn't want to be educated, didn't want to eat the tofu chicken, preferred the hamburgers instead. None of that mattered. In fact, it didn't even matter if they wanted a good night's sleep. The athletes even had to sleep in recyclable cardboard beds. Too bad if they wanted a great rest in a feather down or something ahead of the most important competition in their lives.
It's actually rock solid.
And that's the green movement for you. Haven't you noticed it yourself, run by bullies who like being bullies? Like forcing other people to live their dreams? I mean, seriously. But this time the athletes arced up about the food and the lack of aircon, about the beds, and even the lack of air conditioning on the buses. Former Olympics medalist James Magnuson in Paris as a commentator warned that the lack of world records early in the Games boils down to this whole eco-friendly, carbon footprint, vegan first mentality rather than high performance. And he mocked the new vegan diet.
I joked last night about the amount of vegan options in the village that they're running out of meat. Well, Australian heavyweight boxer has come out. He wanted lamb chops. Maximum 2 chops per person. Guy's 6'6", be 110 at the best. 2 chops.
Well, he's come here as a heavyweight. He'll go home as a middleweight.
He wasn't just speaking for himself. The protest from the athletes went right to the top, and the green bullies were finally forced to pull their heads in. The organisers have now brought in more meat, more eggs, ordered in 2,500 portable air conditioners, about 1 for every 3 rooms still, right? So a lot of people are going to miss out. And the Australians also got extra mattress toppers for a softer sleep. Victory.
And we get reports and all those things. There were problems on lack of low protein in the diets earlier, but not anymore.
Now, this whole debacle really shows how arrogant the climate warriors running the Paris Games really are. And it's great that the athletes have the profile and the power to get some of these global warming rules bent for them. For the spectators, of course, they don't have that power, so for them, nothing changes. At a venue like L'Arconcourt, for instance, the only food they can buy is still only vegetarian, no meat. And this is in France, the home of Bœuf Bourguignon. What a joke. This is a country that eats almost twice as much meat per person than the rest of the world, and yet the organisers act like, they're little global warming monks. This is a country that actually had its first Michelin-star vegan restaurant only 3 years ago, and it closed the year later. That's the global warming elite for you, isn't it? Do what we say, not what you want. You have to stop, we've got to stop buying petrol cars. We have to pay much more for electricity. We have to put up with hideous wind farms vandalising the countryside. In Victoria, you can't have gas in a new home, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't matter if any of this doesn't matter if it makes no measurable difference to the climate. You suffering makes these bullies feel good. And Paris, that's been gold medal bullying, but at least the athletes, they aren't putting up with it.